Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to the latest edition of the dceu Daily. Look at this artwork from DC Comics Official. These are DC Comics pieces of art for Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think they were done by Jim Lee. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think he did it. And look, it's beautiful artwork. And there's another one. Look at that. Doesn't Steppenwolf and Cyborg and Batman look sensational? Brilliant stuff. And there's one more. We've got the Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. And don't they all look fantastic? Absolutely brilliant. Yes, welcome to the latest edition of the dceu Daily. You can tag me and follow me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad. You can make suggestions for what you want me to talk about on the dceu Daily, like Scott Edwards has done, and I will get to his point at the end of the video. So a lot of people are saying, because of this artwork, oh, DC is supporting Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, but Warner Brothers Pictures are not. You understand that Warner Brothers has always owned DC Comics, or has for years. You understand under the Warner Media umbrella, the Warner Media is part of the same company, DC Comics, Warner Brothers Pictures, Warner Brothers Entertainment, right? And you understand that AT&T owns everything. If they didn't want Zack Snyder's Justice League supported, they wouldn't be doing that beautiful artwork for Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. It's all under the same umbrella. And so you just expose yourselves when you talk like that. So the header for this video is that Henry Cavill's Superman return is complicated. But why is it so complicated? Why can't he just agree to come back and make his movies and his cameos? Because, as Grace Randolph said on her video reacting to the Supergirl news in Flashpoint, he rubbed Warner Brothers Pictures up the wrong way. Now, it doesn't really matter because Warner Brothers Pictures are not calling the shots anymore. It goes from Stankey, Keeler, Sarnoff, and then obviously Hamada at Warner Media. But the problem is, I suppose, that Walter Hamada does have connections in Warner Brothers Pictures, which Ray Fisher pretty much proved when he took the kind of the alleged onset abuse from Joss Whedon to Hamada, and Hamada was trying to say, like, allegedly, according to Ray, that he didn't believe Jeff Johns would be doing things like that. So he tried to dismiss what Ray was saying, allegedly, of course, because we weren't in the room. Always important to understand that. And I think this is why a lot of Snyder fans, fellow Snyderverse fandoms, or part of the Snyderverse fandom, don't particularly like Walter Hamada and don't want him leading the DC Extended Universe, the DC live action universe, because they don't trust him because of what Ray Fisher has said took place in that meeting. But it is complicated, and this is why for Henry Cavill, because, you know, Henry Cavill came in with his own ideas for a Superman movie with the director of Mission Impossible Fallout. I forgot the director's name, please forgive me. And so they rejected that. They rejected the concept for that film. They didn't want that director. They said no, and, they just said no straight off the bat. And so they wasn't happy. And Cavill wasn't happy that they didn't particularly read the whole script, that they weren't interested. They kind of blamed Cavill and his Superman for Justice League failing. Of course, he had nothing to... The only thing that Henry's Superman was to blame for that was the horrible upper lip CG and how they changed who he was, because he wasn't the Superman we saw in BVS, not really, or Man of Steel. They totally changed him, gave him horrible CGI, made him smile. They just totally messed up Zack's arc with Superman. And so there is that kind of uncomfortable relationship now within Warner Brothers Pictures, and as Hamada is the one making the decisions with DC live action, it's a bit problematic. So, but listen, if Stanky wants a Superman film with Henry Cavill, if Sarnoff and Keeler want this as well, it's going to happen anyway. But it is complicated. But what Grace Randolph is wrong about, and I think she's somewhat mischievous, as she always is with certain subjects. I respect her, I like her, but she is very mischievous, and she does play up to her YouTube audience sometimes, as I noticed with the Supergirl reaction. But yeah, so, you know, she keeps on saying that they don't like Henry because he wanted more money. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. You know, everyone wants more money. Everyone wants to be paid what they're worth. And, you know, when you're not getting as much as Gal Gadot, you know, it's a bit problematic when you're playing Superman, when you know, Gal Gadot wasn't trained as an actor, and, you know, Henry Cavill was trained at a Royal Shakespearean Company in the UK. It's a bit of a kick in the crotch when someone who literally was a model and did a couple of movies, right, is getting paid more money than you because her character's more popular and she's more popular than you. That's a bit problematic. And there's no problem for me. Superman is my character, but Wonder Woman is one of the most successful, popular comic book characters. There's no problem with Wonder Woman being more popular than Superman, because Wonder Woman's cool and she always has been and always will be. And I'm totally fine with that. And so Cavill probably wanted more money, but she's not being accurate with the truth. The reason the relationship between Cavill and Warner Brothers Pictures broke down is because he wanted to continue the Codex story, but he wanted to take it to a graphic novel that he kind of pinpointed, and him and the Mission Impossible Fallout director, you know, kind of formed a script and a concept for that. And, you know, outright, Warner Brothers Pictures rejected that. So how close are we to them making decisions on Superman? Because they've made a decision they want a live-action Supergirl, because it looks like she's from the Flashpoint universe, and she's not. She doesn't exist in the DCEU as we know it right now. As far as I know, I could be wrong. She could have been hiding out somewhere, right? We don't know. I don't think she's Zack's Supergirl, because Zack's Supergirl was blonde, right? And she's not a Latina as far as I can see in the designs. But of course, it's just a comic book. You can change that. That's absolutely fine if that is Snyder's Supergirl, but it's not. It's a Flashpoint Supergirl. So then you have to ask, there's still a possibility to meet Snyder's Supergirl. And so there's lots of situations like that. But look, Jim Lee said it perfectly on DC Fandom. One of the things Flashpoint is going to allow them to do is, you know, do some diverse casting. So, you know, a Supergirl can come from the multiverse or from a Flashpoint universe and be a Latino. Just because she wasn't a Latino originally in the comics, it doesn't matter. As I said yesterday, we've got the blonde, blue-eyed, white Supergirl with Melissa Benoist. We'll be talking a bit more about her in an article a little bit later on today's DCEU Daily. So there's no problem with her being a Latino. I must repeat what I said yesterday. Someone on Twitter was talking about, you know, blue contact lenses, a blonde wig. Absolutely not. You do not cast a beautiful, talented Latino actor and then change what they look like. That would be so racist. And, you know, I'm not a virtue signaler, and I'm not an alt-left at all. I'm not that political, really. I think politics are not the right way to run this world, but I don't want to get into that conversation. But we've cast a beautiful, talented Latino actor to play Supergirl. I'm really excited, and I want her standing next to a Superman, whoever that Superman may be. But this is interesting. If she's Flashpoint Supergirl, then who's Flashpoint Superman? That's an interesting one, because we know there's a Flashpoint universe Batman, which is supposed to be Tim Burton's Batman, a.k.a. Michael Keaton, right? And so there must be a Superman in there as well. So who's that going to be? This is going to be very interesting. Let me put something forward to you as we're talking about Henry Cavill and Superman. What if they cast someone else to be a Flashpoint timeline Superman, which is absolutely fine, but then do what they... Because the rumours are Keaton is going to be the proper Batman in the DCEU, which would lend to say that either Batfleck will be trapped on another Earth after this film's done, or they're going to kill him off. Now, we know that Batfleck was ready to move on, so maybe he agreed to move on. Now, as I've said to you before, Ben Affleck has rewritten, if not all of Flashpoint, originally written by Christina Hodgson, but a big chunk of it, certainly his chunk. they've let him be involved, because basically I remember Barbara Machete saying how surprised Ben was so quick to join the movie, but he didn't like what was written for him, and he's definitely rewritten his chunk of the movie, right? Now you can't just rewrite your own chunk of the movie, or there's going to be no consistency within the screenwriting, and so it would kind of lend me to think, and even Grace Randolph says that she's heard that it's actually been rewritten. I believe, because I heard that Affleck rewrote his chunk, I think he's rewritten a large portion, if not all of this movie. That's interesting. And so, would they have the guts to kill him off? I don't think so. But if Affleck's decided he doesn't want to do it anymore and he wants this to be it, and you can still do Batfleck stuff over on HBO Max, like prequel stuff, anyway, we would actually know Batfleck's ending. And let's not forget, Batfleck was supposed to sacrifice himself. I don't know if it's in the nightmare future or in the present day in Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 or 3, but that was supposed to be the plan. Apparently, I don't think I've ever heard Zack confirm that. Has he confirmed that? Comment down below and let me know. So this is interesting. So let's pretend this is true. I'm not 100% sold this is true, that Keaton's going to be the main Batman in the DCEU, but let's say that he is. It would then lend to prove that the Flashpoint Superman, whoever he is, if they didn't want to work with Cavill anymore, could be a central kind of, he could come from the Flashpoint universe with the Flash, with Flashpoint Supergirl and Flashpoint Batman, who is Burton's Batman Keaton. They could all be brought back to the central universe, which is the DCEU. This would prove my point again, that along with Matt Reeves' Batman, that J.J. Abrams' Superman will in fact kind of live in Earth 2. Now, another question then, will we actually meet? Will we actually go to Earth 2 in Flashpoint? Flashpoint is pretty much the story of Barry Allen going back in time to save his mum, and then he creates this kind of freakish kind of new universe, which isn't his real present day, but it's kind of the year and everything else. But everything's changed moderately with some things and quite big with a lot. So it's kind of interesting what they're planning here. I would assume we wouldn't meet Earth 2 people, and they'll gradually introduce us to them saying these are the consequences of what happened in Flashpoint. It's a bit like the MCU. There are consequences to Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, because after Endgame, there's certain things that have changed. It's a bit like Arrow versus Flashpoint, when Diggle had a boy instead of a girl after Flashpoint, things like that. So this is what they're going to do. And so what Flashpoint, the movie, does, as well as open this new timeline where things change, where you can bring this Latino Supergirl into the central universe, Keaton's Batman and this new kind of Flashpoint Superman back into the central verse, then you have to ask the question, what happens to Henry Cavill's Superman? Now, I've always believed the future for Henry Cavill's Superman has always been with Zack Snyder over on HBO Max, because Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut is going to hit big. It's going to hit big. So they're going to give him, as I've always said, his little playpen. But he's not a child, is he? His sandpit. No, that's a bit childish as well. But you know what I mean, right? And so I've always believed that Henry Cavill's Superman won't get an opportunity ever again in the central universe. This is why Flashpoint is such a big, important movie. And, you know, for you people who don't like Walter Hamada, who don't trust Walter Hamada, you know, Flashpoint is his baby. And if it fails and it's a horrible movie and it doesn't work well and it doesn't make the money, he will be sacked. He knows this. He knows this, because this is what I keep on telling you about. John Stankey isn't just someone who's in charge of AT&T's monologue. You should go and read it, and I'm not going to read it word for word. I'm just going to tell you the short print is the customer is always right. This is why we got Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, and that's why Zack got 70 million, because they believe what the customer wants, the customer gets within reason. If it's something stupid or insane, the customer won't get it. And so because we had a movement and because we made ourselves seen to them, they wanted to kind of say, well, there's an audience, you're here, you're not going to get it for free, but you want to make money for us and you want this thing, why not? It doesn't hurt anyone. Seeing Justice League so shit, let's give you something that, fingers crossed, is a great movie, right? And so we got Zack Snyder's Justice League. So again, we keep on hashtagging Restore the Snyderverse. They can see that. So Stanky and AT&T are very customer focused. But they also understand that maybe the Snyderverse can't work centrally. Now, when I say it can't work centrally, it works for me, it works for you. I don't want you to start pressing that unsubscribe button. Remember, these are all opinions. And I'm here to say things and to get a reaction from you, right? So just pressing unsubscribe and going away is very childish, because I'm just telling you my point of view and my truth. So give me yours. I won't be offended as long as you're polite and courteous, right? Anyway, and so for a mainstream audience, Snyder's style of making films doesn't work, but it can work over on HBO Max doing his own thing. That's the future for Snyder, over on HBO Max. I mean, I'd love to interview Stanky and Keelar and Sarnoff and just ask them, is it unfeasible for us to restore the Snyderverse? Just to see their reaction. I know we can restore the Snyderverse, but over on HBO Max, this is the future. By the way, I think Zack Snyder's one of the bravest, ballsiest filmmakers I've ever come across. You know, to do the aspect ratio, is it 4.3 he's doing it in? Whatever it is, right? To do the aspect ratio on his Justice League Snyder Cut movie the way he's doing it is very brave. I don't think anyone's ever done that before. And already, and he knows they're going to hang him out to dry when they do the reviews over that. They're going to say, oh, it was off-putting, it took me out of the movie. You already know what the critics are going to say. So he always takes risks and does what he wants to do. And in his films speaks his own truth. And that's why I respect him a hell of a lot. He doesn't change. He doesn't bend for people. I mean, he bent a little bit with taking the Joker's tattoos off, but then he also wants to get more DC projects. So he knows he has to bring the normies in and give them something. Taking the tattoos away from Leto's Joker is the right thing to do. But unlike people like Grace Randolph and people out there, I always digged how Joker looked like in Suicide Squad. I never kind of looked at it and said, oh, he looks terrible. No, he looks like the new 52 Joker, right? And I can't remember if he's got tattoos in the new 52, but so what if he's got fucking tattoos? Why are people so obsessed with anything that's different? Why don't you ever give things a chance? Some of you out there, not all of you, but you know. So I never had an issue with that. So Snyder's there. So with Cavill, I think it's pretty obvious that his future is over on HBO Max and with Zack Snyder. So Flashpoint, there's going to be, in the comics, there is a Flashpoint Superman, but he hasn't been exposed to the sun so much. He didn't have the backstory the Central Superman has. He's skinny. He looks ill. That's the kind of Superman that we see. Now, we could still see that kind of Superman, but when he's brought back from the Flashpoint universe to the main universe, and when he's exposed to the sun, he could, you know, become the Superman that we know. And this is the thing. How do you explain away all of this? Well, this is what Flashpoint has to do. This is why it's really actually exciting. How do you make the Snyderverse an Elseworld? Because when Flashpoint starts, we're still in the Snyderverse. Let's be absolutely clear here. This is the truth of it all. This is the truth of it all. That when we start Andy Machete's Flashpoint, we are in the Snyderverse. With Cavill's Superman, with Gadget's Wonder Woman, you know, with Jason's Aquaman, obviously with Ezra's The Flash. So it's still the Snyderverse when we get in there. The changes will happen when Barry Allen does what he does and goes to the past and creates his Flashpoint universe. This is when things can change. Now, somehow they've got to explain away how Snyder's verse becomes an Elseworld and how, you know, and I'm just kind of theorizing here that we're going to get a Flashpoint, Batman, Superman and Supergirl being dragged from the Flashpoint universe into the Central universe, right? So all of a sudden, Snyder's verse is still kind of Earth 1, but it's changed after Flashpoint. And I think that's the idea. Then Snyder's universe is Elseworld. But then, obviously, they're going to want to keep Momoa and Gadget in their Central Earth. So obviously, they don't have to be trapped in the Elseworld. It can just be, these are discussions that, unfortunately, you know, these are discussions that are going to have to be had between Walter Hamada and Zack Snyder. I don't think these are discussions. This is what I don't understand, because look, they're either going to do two things here. They're either going to show us a way where Snyder's universe can be Elseworld, or Hamada's going to, going to be ruthless and totally destroy the Snyderverse, and it will be no more. I don't want to say that, right? But it's either A or B, isn't it? So we will see what happens, but it is very, very interesting the more you dig deeper into Flashpoint and what actually their plans are. It'll be very interesting once we see posters and the first trailer. Very interesting, and I can't wait. Well, Screen Rant have got an interesting little article here, which I'd like to read by Craig Lv. Everything you need to know about Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is almost upon us. Here's everything you need to know about the upcoming Snyder Cut, from story to release details. Here's everything you need to know as Zack Snyder's Justice League draws closer. The idea of a director's cut is nothing new, but rarely did two completely different versions of one film see the light of day. Justice League, released in 2017 as the grand culmination of the DCEU franchise, but while Snyder's name is in the credits, his vision was greatly altered by Warner Brothers and replacement director Joss Whedon. So, right, first of all, Craig, we have to correct you here, because it's not, Justice League isn't just a film that's altered. It isn't Zack Snyder's film. They've shoved a few of the sequences he directed and finished, but it's not his film. It's not his narrative. This is not a director's cut. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a director's cut of Zack's original Justice League, not Josh's original Justice League. So got to correct you there. It's amazing how misinformed people are and don't do their research. Zack Snyder's Justice League, otherwise known as the Snyder Cut, picks up in the wake of Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, with Superman dead and the world under threat from an incoming extraterrestrial invader. The same core cast return. Ben Affleck is Batman, Henry Cavill is Superman. Spoiler alert, he doesn't stay dead. Gal Gadot plays Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa is Aquaman, Ray Fisher portrays Cyborg, and Ezra Miller is the Flash. The basic premise of Bruce Wayne uniting a superhero team against Steppenwolf also remains true. Yep, nothing wrong with that. Since Justice League's 2017 failure, the DCEU has adopted a less interconnected movie format, which is a mistake as far as I'm concerned, but this is why they're doing Flashpoint. That's going to change. But the Snyder Cut offers a glimpse at what might have been had the full scope of Zack Snyder's plan been allowed to unfold. It's an event many believed would never happen, that the Snyder Cut and its red capes are officially coming. Even before Zack Snyder's departure from Justice League, his intentions for the movie were being diluted. Batman v Superman attracted a largely negative response, and changes were made in light of that criticism, including a softening of Steppenwolf's design and dropping a previously announced two-part structure in favour of a single film. Nevertheless, Snyder completed filming, and Justice League found itself in the post-production process as of early 2017. Tragically, Zack Snyder's daughter passed away that March, and in a recent interview with Sean O'Connell, the director describes how the loss left him with no energy to fight over Justice League. Ultimately, Snyder came to the decision that being with his family was more important than the bullshit he was facing at work. Zack Snyder left Justice League's post-production in May 2017. And so it's important, right, to get the timeline of Autumn's death. She died in March and Snyder left in May. Now, I don't know how it feels to lose a daughter, but let's theorise here. I can imagine losing a daughter in March, and if I was going to stop working, and this is just me personally, and obviously, the pain and the suffering never stops, right? Never stops. 2 months later, it's not a long time. You're still mourning, you're still devastated. I get that. But instead of quitting work in March when his daughter did die, the official reason for him living in May is because he couldn't handle it anymore. He thought he could continue and he couldn't. Now, it's quite plausible, but for me personally, using my logic, I'm thinking, if my daughter's died, or God forbid my nieces or nephews, I'd be devastated, right? So let's say I couldn't do a video anymore straight off the bat if that happened, right? I would never do a video probably for the next 6 months to a year, right? That's just me. But instead of Snyder stepping away in March when his daughter actually died, he stepped away in May. He didn't step away because he couldn't handle it anymore. Of course, he wanted to be with his family. Of course, it was still raw. I get that. He didn't leave because of his daughter. He left because he was forced out, and we all know that. Zack Snyder left Justice League post-production in May 2017, and Warner Bros. Announced Joss Whedon would be stepping in to complete the project. Many DC fans initially saw Joss Whedon as a fitting stand-in to oversee the finishing touches on Justice League. Yeah, I did. There was nothing to say because we didn't know the inner workings of Whedon or his conduct in the past. Joss Whedon had done Buffy, Angel and Firefly. They were great projects. They were successful. He did Avengers 1 and Avengers Age of Ultron, both really successful, good movies. I was excited, and in my back of my head I was thinking, I said it to my brother at the time, they've replaced Snyder. This is the new vision. And although I love Snyder's vision, at the time, not now, but at the time, I was okay with this because I thought I'm a DC fan. I want these films to be successful and I want everybody to love them. So I kind of went, all right, Whedon's going to kind of course correct here. Let's see what he does. And it was so obvious once they dumped Junkie XL, which was harsh, and brought in the other guy who's composer who did the Batman, Burton's Batman theme and all Batman movies and all of that. What's his name? I forgot. Anyway, great composer. So all of a sudden he didn't actually see the film while he was composing it. He was drawn pictures because Whedon was still reshooting it. So he was redoing Williams' Superman theme, and obviously the Burton theme is his theme anyway. I kind of thought at the time it was pretty cool, but looking back at that now, what the fuck? The director had, after all, only recently led the MCU's Avengers to critical and commercial success exactly. Unfortunately, that optimism quickly began to look misplaced. Widespread reports emerged in the summer of 2017 claiming Joss Whedon was to helm reshoots for Justice League rather than simply tidying up post-production as promised. Yeah, basically, they lied to us. At the time of Snyder's departure, statements from both studio executives and crew members maintained that Whedon's reshoots were simply standard practice pickups rather than sweeping changes. They lied. When Justice League hit theatres, however, Whedon's influence proved far more significant than the official line claimed. The dodgy CGI shame to Henry Cavill's highlighted how heavily Superman's story morphed after Zack Snyder's exit, and numerous characters that had previously been announced were missing entirely from the finished product. The script was now dripping with Whedon's trademark humour, including some repurposed gags from old projects, and compared to trailers made from Snyder footage, Justice League was evidently lighter, both in terms of tone and visual cinematography. Yes, the cinematography was totally different. Everything was different. And it's actually funny because after Justice League was released, Warner Brothers Pictures were leaking stuff like, oh, Zack Snyder's Justice League was so bad, we couldn't do it. It was a mess. And that's what they were putting out there. Isn't it ironic? But it was actually Joss Whedon's Justice League that was the mess, and not Zack Snyder's. Predictably, the Justice League changes route in Zack Snyder's absence were not appreciated by audiences. To casual observer, the seams between Snyder's work and Whedon's Warner edits were obvious, and not just on Henry Cavill's upper lip. If the jarring mishmash of tones and the lack of continuity from previous DCEU installments wasn't bad enough, many also felt that Justice League had willfully abandoned Zack Snyder's core vision. Most damning of all, however, these wholesale changes and the millions spent undoing what had already been filmed could only yield a bland and basic superhero movie. The controversy rumbles on. In 2021, last year, Ray Fisher Cyborg accused Joss Whedon of unprofessional and abusive behaviour on set. Basically, just another day on any set, by the way, Ray. But anyway, and abusive behaviour on set, and claimed the director was enabled by the producing duo of Jeff Johns and John Berg. Fisher has continued to fight for justice, highlighting issues with the subsequent investigation into Whedon's behaviour, and his statement has been supported by others who shared similar experiences both on Justice League and older projects such as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. 2017's Justice League not only left DC fans disappointed, but also wondering what could have been, were Snyder not replaced by Whedon. Early trailers, images and concept art promised something greater, and since Snyder departed during the post-production phase, This original version of Justice League should have been more or less complete. DC fans on Twitter demanded to see this lost pre-Whedon cut of Justice League, and as momentum gathered, the Release the Snyder Cut campaign was born. What began as a simple hashtag quickly picked up pace, as supporters hired flyover planes and billboards at major conventions, and big-name celebrities began to throw their weight behind the cause. Zack Snyder himself indirectly encouraged these efforts by drip-feeding more and more juicy details about his Justice League, emphasizing how different the two cuts truly were. Oh, Zack knew exactly what he was doing. Throughout this process, this existence of the Snyder Cut went unconfirmed, and no one was entirely sure whether the original Justice League was in a vault somewhere gathering dust, or merely the fabrication of disgruntled fans. As the Snyder Cut took on a mythic quality, the online movement hit another level when the director finally confirmed his Justice League movie was no mere myth, and it wasn't long before the cast themselves joined in. Release the Snyder Cut's evolution from just another hashtag to a genuine cultural movement is nothing short of remarkable, and it should also be noted that the campaign has raised a considerable amount of money for suicide prevention over the past 3 years. Yeah, well done, everyone. You know, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, when they call us toxic and they call us a cult, I don't know many cults that raise that kind of money for such an important charity. Watching the latest Snyder Cut trailer, it becomes painfully clear that the 2021 movie is a completely different beast compared to the 2017 theatrical Justice League. With changes in virtually every area, various characters dropped by Whedon have been restored by Snyder, including Darkseid, Iris West, Martian Manhunter, Cyborg's family, Desaad, Granny Goodness, and more. Upon completing the Snyder Cut over the past year, Jared Leto's Joker has also been added to the recipe. With so many new faces, Zack Snyder's Justice League promises to dive far deeper into the DCEU lore than the superficial overview offered by Warner Bros.' 2017 release. The influx of new and returning characters hints at how radically Justice League's story could change in 2021. Superman's resurrection will be altered completely, paying more attention to Clark's legacy and mindset after coming back to life. As glimpsed in the trailer, Suits will also don his famous black Kryptonian suit in the Snyder Cut. Cyborg was one of the biggest casualties from Whedon's reshoots, with Ray Fisher's superhero losing a backstory in a major scene where his father is killed by a mother box. With these elements restored, Cyborg will be a more fleshed out, stilled out entity in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Expect a greatly enhanced history lesson sequence too, with more attention on the Amazonian and Atlantean forces that fought off Darkseid's invasion back in the day. Of course, the addition of Darkseid himself of Justice League introducing an overarching antagonist rather than making Steppenwolf the top dog. Picking up from Batman v Superman, the Snyder Cut will finally address the Nightmare timeline, a post-apocalyptic future where Darkseid takes over the Earth. A grizzled Batman will team up with Cyborg and Flash to travel through time and stop Darkseid's calamity from ever happening, facing old foes such as Joker and Deathstroke along the way. More so than the plot and characters, the tone of Snyder's Justice League will be the biggest discrepancy from the failure of 2017. After recruiting Joss Whedon, Warner Bros. Evidently tried to lighten Justice League in response to Batman vs Superman criticism. The Snyder Cut will strip out that awkward, out-of-place humour and bring back the gritty darkness that defined the director's previous DCEU efforts. This tonal shift will be reflected by Justice League's restored visuals. The strange dawn glow of Joss Whedon's Justice League will be replaced by the gloom of night, and character designs will take on a more mature edge, with Steppenwolf assuming his spiky, horror-inspired form once more. Breaking away from the confines of the theatrical cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League will be a 4-hour R-rated movie, a far cry from 2017's brisk 2-hour PG-13 release. Warner Bros. Agreeing to release the Snyder Cut can be largely attributed to the Release the Snyder Cut campaign, without which Zack Snyder's Justice League almost certainly wouldn't be happening. But simply, the movement gathered too much attention to ignore. With the message even spreading to A-list actors like Ben Affleck, the more attention the Snyder Cut created, the more Warner Bros. Silence became deafening. And in the end, the studio were left with little option but to listen. But we know the studio didn't greenlight Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. John Stankey and AT&T did that, and we know that. Another key factor in the Snyder Cut's release is the launch of HBO Max, Warner Bros. In-house streaming service. Dropping the Snyder Cut online rather than as a regular theatrical release allows the studio to save face, giving the people what they want without openly admitting they goofed back in 2017. Whether they admit it or not, we know they goofed. From Warner Bros. Perspective, the Snyder Cut will be a major asset in the ongoing streaming wars, bringing plenty of eyes to HBO Max. The big problem with Zack Snyder's Justice League is that the original cut was intended to set up a sequel according to reported story details. Steppenwolf was to act as the main antagonist, but Darkseid would appear near the finale as the DCEU's true villain, leading directly into a follow-up where Batman and the gang face down their new fearsome opponent. It's not currently known whether the Snyder Cut will conclude Darkseid's storyline within the 4-hour runtime, or whether Zack Snyder's Justice League will stick to the original plan and end on a monumental cliffhanger. This is the thing, isn't it? Because from what I know, it's going to finish with a kind of cliffhanger and he's not going to finish everything off. But it is a 4-hour movie and it is feasible that he could finish it all here, which I know would disappoint a lot of people. And it would be bittersweet for me. It would be great to see the guy's whole arc within a 4-hour movie, but we want to see more, don't we? So I don't think that's the case. He says his Justice League is exactly what he was going to do originally and what he shot. But he has brought in Jared Leto since then. So, very interesting. Even with 4 hours to play with, Zack Snyder's Justice League won't fulfill the director's entire vision for the DCEU. And there are many more stories to tell within Snyder's world. From the Green Lanterns to the Injustice League, there's room for Zack Snyder's Justice League too, even if the fate of Darkseid is somehow resolved. Unfortunately, Snyder claims Warner Bros. Has no interest in making more films within his continuity. Given how unlikely the Snyder Cut's release looked only 2 years ago, however, it's impossible to rule out a sequel should Zack Snyder's Justice League prove popular enough, and it will. For North American viewers, Zack Snyder's Justice League will be available through HBO Max on March the 18th at no extra cost. Canadians can watch on the Crave service, Asians via HBO Go, and select European countries can access the Snyder Cut on their country's usual HBO service. The Snyder Cut has now been confirmed to release worldwide via PVOD, which is pay-per-view for you, and digital video, as well as on HBO markets such as China, France and Japan remain unaccounted for. These countries will need to wait for further announcement, as discussions are reportedly ongoing. Snyder has mentioned the possibility of a future theatrical release with a 10-minute intermission worked into a 4-hour narrative, but these plans remain unconfirmed as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to keep theatres closed. A black and white cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League will drop under the title Justice is Grey. So that's a great article, and it really does show you, mostly accurately, what happened, what drove Zack off, how he came back. You know, an amazing story. I've not seen a course of events in the entertainment industry like this before, but of course there's a lot of stuff behind closed doors with different films. But Snyder was smart here. Unlike other directors who were stabbed in the back, he wasn't going to take it. And what he did, he gave the information to certain people like Fiona, and she was dropping it. How do you think? Do you remember just after Justice League when the kind of sequence with Barry saving Iris came out? People were leaking that. Where did that come from? Zack leaked it. Zack initiated this whole movement from the very beginning. We're getting the Snyder Cut because he empowered us and helped us to do so. This has never happened in Hollywood before, where they tried to silence a director and that director struck back. And that, for me, is sensational. And that's the difference between Zack Snyder and the rest of Hollywood. Not only is he a brave, gutsy, ballsy director, not only is he a unique, visionary director as well and storyteller, he's got guts. He fought Hollywood and he won. The pressures of making a video and doing other things you have to do in your general day. Since I paused this video, I put a chicken in the oven, right? And I've made my dad a coffee. So I'm back now anyway. So Dwayne Johnson explains Black Adam workout regime in new video. Black Adam is expected to start production in the spring, and we'll see Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, in his first big superhero role. The wrestler turned actor is no stranger to beefing up for a movie. But based on his latest Instagram post, it looks like Johnson is training harder than ever for the DC flick. Cardio in the morning on an empty stomach and then training later in the afternoon or sometimes late at night around 10 at night or even sometimes midnight. I've been training for the big one, Black Adam. Johnson explains in the video. Why we try to make them all big, but Black Adam, you guys are excited. You guys are on fire about Black Adam and so am I. This one is a big one, but it's also defining, and I want to raise the bar in terms of superhero movies, but I also want to come in the best shape of my entire career. One thing I like about The Rock, and a lot of these ex-wrestlers, by the way, who are now actors, they're very professional about not just how they look. They know they're not professional actors. They know they're not trained, but they work even harder than other people because they know everyone looks down on them. Tons of questions from you about my training routine for Black Adam. Been working very hard on my strength, conditioning, diet, balance and energy to come into this role. Being in the best shape, hopefully of my career, and raise the bar. Johnson wrote on Instagram, happy to share more insight with you as we go down the road. And of course, my training days and nights are always powered by Zoe Energy. So a bit of a plug there. And yet originally flavoured ZOA tastes like pancakes, peanut butter, maple syrup and greatness. You can watch the full video, which features Johnson promising to keep folks updated on his workout process below. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And so that's just a short article, just to see what he's doing and how seriously he's taking it. He wants to raise the bar. Black Adam is something he's read. Black Adam is something he really likes. This is going to be an amazing project. You know, they're bringing the Justice Society to the DCEU. And I can't wait to Shazam 3 when we finally see, Zachary Levi and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson front up. It's going to be absolutely outstanding. But Black Adam is a project in DC I'm really, really looking forward to. The CW Supergirl Melissa Benoist supports Sasha Calle's DCEU casting, as we all should. The CW Supergirl Melissa Benoist is voicing her support for the casting of Sasha Calle, who will play Supergirl in the upcoming Flash movie by Dusty Stone. The CW Supergirl Melissa Benoist is voicing her support for the casting of Sasha Calle, who will play Supergirl in the upcoming Flash movie. Benoist has been playing Kara Danvers on the small screen since 2015, with her show's run wrapping up later this year with its 6th season. Calle, a relative newcomer, currently stars in the soap opera The Young and the Restless. By the way, Brandon Routh came from a soap as well before Superman Returns, which she was nominated for a Daytime Emmy. She's the first actress of Latin descent to play the role and reportedly beat over 400 other actresses through a massive audition search. Not much is known about Calle's version of Supergirl yet. The fact that she's showing up first in The Flash suggests she'll likely be from another reality, as the film is set to explore the DC multiverse, complete with an appearance by Michael Keaton's Batman. There's also a small hint that the DCEU could already have a Supergirl in Man of Steel, when Clark discovers the Kryptonian colony ship in the Arctic that would serve as a sort of makeshift fortress of solitude. One of the life pods was open and empty, prompting many to suspect Kara Zor-El could already be out there somewhere. Benoist voiced her support for Calle's casting on her Instagram account, noting the character is bigger than any one actress. Check it out below. It's a touching show of solidarity, especially considering Benoist's show is ending before its time. I wouldn't say it's ending before its time. I think it's ending at the right time, likely because her older cousin is coming to the network in Superman and Lois. Benoist's show hasn't always been a critical darling, but most agree Benoist is the best thing about the show, I agree, and has carried it through rough patches with grace and charm. Benoist has been one of the biggest goodwill ambassadors for the CW's Arrowverse over the years, so it's not a huge surprise that she would remain humble and excited about a prospect of passing the baton to a new actress. And also, she's just signed an overall deal with Warner Brothers Television. She will be playing Supergirl and Kara Danvers again after Supergirl is over as a show, and I believe she will be in Flashpoint. DC fans are plenty excited for Calle's version of the character, and many have become accustomed to enjoying more than one live-action iteration of the character. Meaning the multiverse concept should go down relatively smoothly. It's certainly a big step for Calle, whose experience is limited, but Warner Brothers struck gold when they similarly cast the largely unknown Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Let's be clear here. It was Zack Snyder who cast Gal and found Gal, who cast the entire of the DC Extended Universe, apart from Shazam and things like that. But yeah, you know, the others were cast by Zack. If Callie can approach that level of dynamism in the role, Supergirl fans are in for a treat. Look, I'm so excited for Sasha. She's a great kid. I can tell you that she's a great kid. If you go and check her out in The Young and the Restless, she's so talented. She looks great. She is great. She's full of energy, emotion. She's going to be fantastic. TikToks perfectly show how Superman's Clark Kent disguise works. A new trend on TikTok proves Superman's Clark Kent disguise would work in real life, despite him just wearing glasses and changing his hair. By Daniel Gillespie of Screen Rant. A new trend on TikTok proves Superman's Clark Kent disguise would work in real life. It's one of the most discussed aspects of the DC universe, just how no one recognises Clark Kent is Superman, even though all he does is wear fake glasses and comb his hair differently. In fact, it becomes a well-worn joke among fans who have had to suspend their disbelief for the sake of enjoying the movies and TV shows featuring Superman. Look, I don't know about the comics so much, and I don't want to get into that so much because we have so many different iterations. But if we go back to, if we go back to the George Reeves show, if you're close to him, it's pretty obvious who he is, and they should know who he is. But you do have to suspend disbelief there. But if you don't see him up close, then you wouldn't know Clark Kent is Superman. Now, with Christopher Reeve's iteration, you would never guess Superman and Clark Kent are the same person unless you spent too much time with them, as Margot Kidder's Lois did, and ultimately become suspicious of him being Superman. But the way Chris played him, they're so different in body shape and the way they act, you could actually never guess. And the same with Henry Cavill's Superman Clark Kent. Henry's Clark Kent is a lot square. He's very serious. He's very intelligent. He's caring. But you wouldn't straight away guess that they're the same person. Again, it was important that Lois Lane finds out who Clark is from the very beginning. Because again, if you spend too much time close, it's pretty obvious they're the same person. But people like Perry White and I forgot the girl's name who he works with as well, don't see him too close, so they wouldn't know Clark's Superman. Jenny, by the way, even with the modern adaptations featuring Henry Cavill in the DC Extended Universe and now Tyler Hoechlin in the Arrowverse, Superman's identity remains a secret despite Clark Kent sticking to the same disguise. An infamous Batman v Superman Jimmy Kimmel parody video poked fun at the whole concept. That was a funny video, with the TV host recognising Clark as Superman immediately. Still, in the DC universe, it's simply accepted that he's unrecognisable and fans have learned to accept it. But now a new trend on TikTok shows how it might be entirely plausible for Superman to disguise himself using just glasses and a different haircut. The trend, which has exploded on both TikTok, involves young men posting videos of themselves dressed up like mild-mannered geeks and then suddenly transforming into muscle-bound hunks, removing their glasses and changing their hair. Twitter user Miss Darcy comments on one of the videos saying, "This is how no one is able to recognise Superman with glasses on," making the case that Superman's identity would remain a secret even in real life. Check out some of the videos below. So cool. Brilliant. Yeah, it is really cool. And there's a lot of videos. The trend is similar to a video that did the rounds a few years ago showing the new girl Zoe Chanel was completely unrecognisable without her trademark hipster glasses, and bangs this trend, though doubles down, showing how just a few subtle changes in posture and facial expression can hide someone's real identity, even if some of the men in the TikTok struggle to hide their obviously huge muscles under loose clothing. It's a problem the two current Superman stars Cavill and Hoechlin struggle with. Two, though, obviously smart camera angles and blocking hide their physiques better. Whether this trend will quiet fan debate about just how Clark Kent stays in disguise is doubtful, but it does provide that a different approach to a character can change the way people see them completely. It's very interesting, isn't it? I don't think people should focus too much on the disguise, on whether it works or not. As a kid, I loved that concept. I went with that concept and I never questioned it. Unfortunately, we do live in a society who look too deeply in our stories, films and TV shows now, and they actually ruin everything for us who don't want to look too deeply into these things, and for themselves as well. Just get into the fantasy, accept what you see, use your imagination. That's my advice to you. Any Smallville fans in the house? I'm a massive Smallville fan. It's one of the things that made me an even bigger, greater Superman DC fan than I ever was before. Growing up, I didn't really realise Superman was part of DC Comics when I was watching the Reeve movies. But Smallville really spent time to introduce us to the DC universe and Superman and all these characters, and it was wonderful. Now, we did have a version of General Zod played by Callum Blue in season 9. Callum's a British actor, did really well in the role, but the original plan was to use Sam Witwer, who obviously voices certain Star Wars games and has done Rebels as well. A really good voice actor, an actor. He played Davies Bloom in season 8, who was also Doomsday. They did this whole Hulk kind of a weight thing with Doomsday, so Davies Bloom would turn into Doomsday. It was great. Sam did a great job. And the plan was for Sam to play General Zod, because the thing is, Zod, using his DNA, created Doomsday. So it would be plausible that Zod would look like Sam Witwer. They never went with this idea, but just to see him with a goatee and with Sam's physique, I think Sam would have played a more imposing General Zod. And I think it's a shame they didn't do it, and I just can't think why they didn't do it. Smallville's original Zod plan explained and why it changed. The original plan for Smallville Season 9 was for Doomsday actor Sam Witwer to play Zod. Here's why and the reason it didn't work out, by Nicholas Raymond. The original plan, Smallville Season 9, was for Doomsday actor Sam Witwer to remain on the show and play Major Zod during season 8. During Season 8, Sam Witwer played paramedic Davies Bloom, a character who suffered from mysterious blackouts. It was discovered over the course of the season that Davies was actually a survivor of Krypton's destruction, and he was the human form of a genetically engineered monster called Doomsday, the creature notorious for killing Superman in DC Comics. In the Smallville Season 8 finale, black kryptonite was used to separate Davies from Doomsday, but in the end both characters were killed. Once the Doomsday story was over, Smallville looked to Zod for its Season 9 villain. The real Zod had already been defeated in the Season 6 premiere, but the show found a way to introduce a new version released from an interdimensional prison in the Season 8 finale. Was an army of clones. Leading the group was a young Major Zod played by Callum Blue. This clone was created from the original Zod's genetic material prior to him assuming the role of General. Before Callum Blue was cast as the character, the producers intended for Sam Witwer to play Zod. Doomsday and Zod are of course two separate characters, but the writers had a way for it to work. Clearly, this is where Smallville wanted to go, as Witwer did portray Zod without showing his face. It's a brief shot in the Season 8 finale's cliffhanger ending. In fact, Witwer playing Zod was something they set up in a Season 8 episode when they explored Doomsday's backstory. It was said that Davies was the genetic son of Zod. If he was created from some of Zod's DNA, it would be plausible for them to look similar, absolutely. Smallville didn't proceed with this plan because Witwer turned down the opportunity to remain on the show as Major Zod. He said their explanation about him looking like Zod didn't make sense to him. That's a shame. I'm really sad that he didn't want to do it, and he felt that everyone in Metropolis knowing what Davies looked like and that he was a serial killer would create a narrative issue as a result. He's right, and you know, it says a lot about Sam that he was willing to do himself out of an acting role because he didn't feel it made sense. But these things, of course, could have been explained away. But Sam is a geek and nerd himself, and he wouldn't want to do anything to hurt what he'd already done. And actually, he was hilarious on set, as hilarious as Rosenbaum was as Lex Luthor, in off-takes and stuff. But it is a shame he didn't do it, and that he was a serial killer would create a narrative issue. As a result, Smallville abandoned the Doomsday Zod connection and looked for a new actor to play the villain. That's when Blue entered the picture and became the show's new Zod. It's likely for the best that Whitweir didn't continue as Major Zod. I don't agree. With Davis dead, there was really no need for the actor to remain associated with the series. I don't agree. Zod looking exactly like Jimmy Olsen's killer and the paramedic who turned it into Doomsday wouldn't have served an obvious narrative purpose. It would have worked because it would have been an emotional thing for the other characters. And if you have an imagination, you would be able to see that. Who turned into Doomsday wouldn't have served an obvious narrative purpose. And for that reason, it just would have created unnecessary confusion. No, I hate it when we get people saying about, confusion. Audiences are smarter than you think. If it's explained to them properly, there wouldn't be an issue. Putting a different actor in the role allowed Smallville to leave Davis behind completely, which was a shame, and move forward with an all-new villain to challenge Clark. But the problem with that is they set Davis up for a whole season. He was a full-time cast member, and it would have been great for that narrative to continue. Continuity is very important in long-running television shows, so I'm very disappointed that Sam Witwer didn't want to continue and do that, because I think it would have been a lot better, and I'm not being disrespectful to Callum Blue. He was a brilliant Major Zod. Wow, what a long video. Sorry for keeping you from your business. Scott Edwards asks, at Movies TV Mad, my question for tomorrow's DCEU Daily. Who do you think the villain in Black Adam film will be? I've heard rumours of Eclipso and Sabak. I don't know those ones that you've listed there, Scott, but I believe it's Vandal Savage. Now, Vandal Savage was portrayed in Legends of Tomorrow Season 1, and they did a piss-poor job of it, as everything Legends of Tomorrow has done, and now it's pretty much just become a time-travelling sitcom, right, as far as I'm concerned. But Vandal Savage in the comics is a sensational villain. He's got depth, he's got immortality, he's a really great villain. And that's why I feel that Vandal Savage would be perfect, Scott, for the Black Adam movie as a villain if done properly. And there's no reason why they can't do it properly, because we've got Hawkman in it, we've got Hawk Girl in it, all right? And so we've got the two characters who in the comics are connected to Savage, as well as we saw in Legends of Tomorrow. So if they could do this properly, I think Vandal Savage would be an amazing villain. But what do you think? Would you like to see Vandal Savage as the main villain in Black Adam? Or would you rather see another villain? Comment down below, like, share and subscribe. Find me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and I'll see you tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.